Hey there. If you've had a long day, you're in the right place. This is your quiet corner of the internet where nothing is expected of you except to rest. Tonight, I'll be reading you a long, winding Reddit story. It's full of emotions, secrets, and little twists, the kind of tale you can slowly drift off to. You don't need to keep track of every detail. Just let the words wash over you. Let your eyes get heavy, and before you know it, you'll be asleep. So tuck in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I want to call off our wedding because I found out he edited me out of his ideal life vision board? Hi Reddit, throwaway, because my fiancé knows my main. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Lucas, Sir 30 Matt, for 8 months, and we've been together for 5 years. Our relationship has always been a bit of a balancing act. I'm the emotional one, he's the logical one. I'm a teacher, he's in finance. I'm expressive, maybe a little messy sometimes, and he's methodical and structured. We've joked for years about how we complete each other because of how different we are. But recently, something happened that made me question whether I'm even part of the life he wants for himself. Lucas and I met at a mutual friend's birthday party and hit it off after arguing about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. He was reserved at first, but once he opened up, I saw someone fiercely loyal, quietly funny, and deeply thoughtful. We moved in together after 2 years and got engaged last winter after a trip to Banff, where he proposed in front of a frozen waterfall. It was beautiful. It felt right. That's why what happened last month completely blindsided me. Lucas started seeing a new career coach earlier this year. He's been feeling stagnant at his job and wanted help figuring out his long-term goals. I was fully supportive. He started journaling more, working out regularly, and even doing morning meditation. All great things. Part of the program involved creating a vision board of his ideal life in 5 to 10 years. He printed it out and taped it inside his closet door. One morning while folding laundry, I went to hang some of his shirts and noticed the vision board. I hadn't seen it before, and naturally I was curious, so I looked. At first, it was what I expected. A sleek modern house, pictures of beaches and mountain hikes, quotes like "discipline, sound freedom," and "dominate the day." Then I saw a wedding photo. It was from a magazine, a bride and groom walking on a cliffside in Italy. The woman looked nothing like me, thin, tall, blonde, and then the caption beneath it: "A partner who fuels me forward." I looked through the rest of the board. Pictures of children, all with light hair and blue eyes. Lucas and I are both brunettes. A list titled, "Traits in my inner circle." Ambitious, calm under pressure, no unnecessary drama, high performance mindset, emotionally stable. Not once was my name, photo, or anything personal to me on the board. What got me was the dog section. We have a golden retriever named Max, but the board had a picture of a Doberman with the caption, "Protective, obedient, minimalist." Max is anything but. He's goofy, sheds everywhere, and once stole an entire Thanksgiving turkey off the counter. I stood there for a long time, just staring. That night, I asked Lucas about it. I tried to keep my tone light. "Hey, I saw your vision board today. It's really intense." He laughed and said, "Yeah, it's part of a visualization technique." Then I asked, "Was there a reason you didn't include me in it?" He looked genuinely surprised. Then he said, "Well, it's not about us, it's just for me." I told him that hurt. That if he's imagining his dream life, and I'm not part of it, what does that say? He got defensive, said it wasn't literal, that it was about archetypes and qualities, not specific people, that I was reading too much into it. I said, I wouldn't be upset if it were just vague stuff, but there's a wedding photo, kids, a dog, and none of it resembles the life we've been building for 5 years. He said I was making it about me when it wasn't meant to be personal. Said, how could I not take it personally? You've basically photoshopped a different woman into the life you want. He got quiet. Then he said, maybe because lately It feels like we're going in different directions. That sentence hit me like a freight train. That moment felt like a window being thrown open after years of comfort. Suddenly, everything was cold and unfamiliar. I thought we were solid. Sure, we're different, but we balance each other out. Or so I thought. But now I feel like maybe I've been dragging someone along who's too polite to say he wants out. I asked him directly, "Are you saying you don't see a future with me?" He said he doesn't know, that he loves me, but he's starting to wonder if love is enough, that I'm emotional, impulsive, and that sometimes I make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. And he doesn't know if that's what he wants in a long-term partner. He said I can be exhausting. I won't lie. That shattered me. We argued for hours. I cried. He stayed calm, cool, and measured the entire time, like I was a problem he was analyzing instead of a person he was hurting. He kept saying he didn't mean to hurt me, but wouldn't take responsibility for how the vision board felt like erasure, like he had already mentally replaced me with someone easier. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I packed a bag and went to my sister's. Lucas doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He says the board was aspirational, not exclusionary, that I'm projecting my insecurities onto it, that it's not his fault if the traits he wants to cultivate don't match up with how I operate. He says he still loves me, but love doesn't automatically mean compatibility. He told me he never intended for me to see the board and that he's sorry I was hurt, but he won't apologize for having personal goals. He said, "Maybe the problem is you see this relationship as your identity, and I see it as part of my life, not the whole thing." Ouch. It's been 3 weeks. I'm still staying at my sister's. We've had one major conversation since, where I told him I need space to think. He asked if I'm calling off the wedding. I said I don't know yet, but I can't marry someone who plans a future without me in it. He said, "Maybe that's for the best." And that was it. I haven't officially cancelled the venue or told my parents, but I think this is over. Part of me is still in shock. Part of me wonders how long he's been detaching. But mostly, I just feel empty. Like I've been quietly replaced in someone's heart without even realizing it. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I might call off the wedding after seeing his vision board and realizing I'm not in it? TLDR. My fiancé made a vision board of his ideal future, and I wasn't in it. He used photos of another woman, different kids, even a different dog. When I asked why, he said it wasn't personal and I was being dramatic, but then admitted he's unsure if we're compatible long-term. I left to stay with my sister, and now I'm wondering if I should end things. Aita. Hi Reddit. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I, 31M, have been with my girlfriend Lila, 29F, for 4 years. We live together in a 1-bedroom apartment in Seattle, have a rescue cat named Binks, and up until a few weeks ago I thought we were solid. Not perfect, but solid. I loved her. I still do. But I feel like I've been quietly disappearing in our relationship for the past year. Let me preface by saying that Lila is a good person. She's creative, warm, passionate about social causes, and has a contagious laugh that used to be the highlight of my day. She works in non-profit grant writing, demanding work, often underappreciated and emotionally taxing. I get that. I admire her commitment. I'm a software engineer, currently remote, working long hours due to a tight product release window. My job isn't saving the world, but it pays the bills, and I try to do it well. I've been running on empty since late December. Long days, late nights, high expectations. And lately, I feel like I've been crumbling. Quietly. Invisibly. Lila's always vented a lot. About her boss, her co-workers, the broken system, her parents, her migraines, the news, her old college friend who posts performative activism, etc. I've always listened, every night, usually while I'm cooking dinner or doing the dishes after. At first, I wanted to be her rock. I still do, but in the past 6 months, it's been every night. No breaks. No, "How was your day?" or "You look tired, are you okay?" Just pure, unfiltered stream of consciousness venting. And I don't know how I didn't realize sooner. I was becoming more of a therapist than a partner. A few weeks ago, after a brutal 11-hour workday, my head pounding, I walked into the kitchen to start dinner. Lila came in 10 minutes later and immediately launched into how someone tone policed her during a staff meeting. I remember holding a pan in my hand and just freezing. I felt like a ghost. So I interrupted her, gently, and said, "Hey babe, can we pause for a second? I've had a really rough day and I'm kind of at capacity." She looked confused. "Oh, okay, sorry, I just needed to let that out." But then she was quiet the rest of dinner, barely spoke, went to bed early. I thought maybe she was giving me space, but the next day she was colder. I asked if she was okay, and she said, "I didn't realize I couldn't talk to my partner about my day anymore." That stung. So I tried to explain. "It's not that I don't want to hear about your day. It's that I need you to sometimes ask about mine. Or even just give me a second to breathe when I'm drowning." She said, "Well, you never say anything. How am I supposed to know if you don't speak up?" She wasn't wrong. I hadn't said much. I'd been trying to be stoic, supportive, the calm one. But I thought she'd notice the dark circles, the silence, the lack of jokes, me forgetting to eat. She didn't. And when I finally did say something, it turned into her being hurt because I wasn't available emotionally. I told her, honestly, that I felt like I'd become a dumping ground for her emotions, and that she didn't even see me when I was struggling. I said, "I need support too. I can't carry us both all the time." She cried, told me I was cruel, that she doesn't have anyone else to vent to like she does with me, that she doesn't mean to be selfish, but life is hard right now and I'm usually fine. I wasn't fine. That night, I left and stayed at my friend Eli's place. I told Lila I needed space. She asked me if I was breaking up with her. I said I didn't know. The next few days were chaos. She texted constantly, alternated between apologizing and blaming me for being emotionally withholding. She said, "You've changed. You used to care when I was upset." And I said, "I still care, but you don't seem to notice when I am." She said I was being manipulative, punishing her for being open by leaving, that I was weaponizing silence, that if I had just told her how I felt sooner, none of this would have happened. Maybe she's right. Maybe I should have said something earlier. Maybe I let things fester. But I didn't feel safe. Every time I tried to bring something up, she'd cry or twist it into me being distant, or tell me I wasn't the man she fell in love with. The man she fell in love with didn't have limits, I guess. We agreed to start couples therapy. First session was a week ago. The therapist asked us both what we felt was missing. I said, "I feel like I'm an emotional service provider, and when I have needs, I'm told they're an inconvenience." Lila said, "I feel like I'm being asked to bottle everything up so he doesn't get overwhelmed. That's not fair." And here we are. I'm back at the apartment, but sleeping, on the couch. We talk civilly. We eat meals together. We're trying, but I feel numb, like I've been screaming into a void for a year, and only just now someone noticed I was gone. I love her, but I'm scared that love means exhaustion to her, that being loved means always being available, always listening, always being the sponge for someone else's pain. And when I said I couldn't, just couldn't, do that anymore without reciprocity, I became the villain. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I can't keep being her emotional support if she won't acknowledge my own burnout? Was I too harsh? Did I wait too long to speak up? Should I have just kept listening and powered through because that's what love is? Or was I right to finally draw a line? TLDR. My girlfriend vents daily about her life but doesn't check in on me, even as I deal with burnout and mental exhaustion. When I asked for space and said I needed support too, she accused me of being emotionally unavailable. Now we're in therapy, but I'm questioning everything. Aita? Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend I don't want to marry into his family and refusing his proposal because of it? Hi Reddit. I don't know if I'm looking for validation, judgment, or just to scream into the void, but I've been crying for days and I can't tell who's being reasonable anymore. So I guess I'm here. Main character's name: Emily, age of the main character, 29. Partner's name: Zach, age of the partner, 31. Zach and I have been together for 5 years. We met through work. I'm in marketing, he's in sales. We started off casually, but it quickly turned into something deeper. We moved in together after a year, got a dog together, a little mutt named Clover, and have talked about marriage for at least the last 2 years. I genuinely love Zach. He's kind, ambitious, emotionally intelligent, most of the time, and he makes me laugh even when I'm furious with him. The one caveat: his family. Zach comes from a very loud, opinionated, traditional Italian-American family. Think Sunday dinners with 20 people. Everyone has an opinion on your life choices. And why aren't you pregnant yet, even though we're not even married? His mum, especially, is a lot. Marie is the type who believes no one will ever be good enough for her son. She's criticized my cooking, my job, my clothes, and even once implied I wasn't raised right because I don't go to church every week. I was raised Christian, but not practicing, and Zach knows that. Marie doesn't care. I've told Zach multiple times that his family overwhelms me, that I often feel like I'm under a microscope at their gatherings, that I don't feel liked, much less accepted. And he always says the same thing. They're just being themselves, babe. They'll come around. 5 years in, and they haven't. 3 weeks ago, Zach planned a romantic weekend trip to Asheville. Cozy cabin, hiking trails, good food. I thought it was just a little getaway. But on the second night, while we were stargazing on the back deck, he proposed. It should have been perfect. But when I opened the ring box and saw the diamonds sparkling up at me, my stomach dropped. Not because I didn't love him, but because in that split second, all I could think about was becoming his wife, and therefore their daughter-in-law. About Marie criticizing our wedding plans. About his sister demanding to be maid of honor, because it's tradition. About me spending every holiday biting my tongue while they made passive-aggressive jabs at my career. About raising kids with that family looming over us, demanding input. So I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. I just froze. He looked confused, hurt. I asked if we could talk about it inside. I tried to explain that I loved him, but I didn't want to marry into a family that barely tolerates me. That I was scared of a future where I'm constantly outvoted, outshouted and dismissed. I told him I couldn't accept the proposal unless we seriously talked about setting boundaries with his family. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "So, you're saying you won't marry me unless I cut off my family?" I said that's not what I meant. That I wasn't asking him to cut them off, but I needed him to take my side, to actually have my back when his mum is being awful or when his brother makes sexist jokes. I told him I've been waiting for years for him to speak up for me, and I was starting to think he never would. He didn't say much after that, just closed the ring box, put it in his pocket, and said, "Let's go to bed." We drove back home in near silence. The next week was weird and distant. He still made me coffee every morning, still kissed me goodnight, but there was a tension I couldn't shake. Finally, a few days ago, he asked if I'd made up my mind. I told him the same thing again. I love you. I want to be with you, but not like this. Not while your mum treats me like a threat and you act like it's fine. He got defensive, said I was holding the proposal hostage, that I was punishing him for things outside of his control, that I was making him choose. I said I wasn't. I just wanted to know that I'd have a partner, not someone who expects me to endure his family alone. He packed a bag and went to stay with his brother. I feel like I've been screaming underwater for years. I've tried to be patient. I've smiled through insults. I've tried to win them over by baking, by helping clean up, by going to every birthday dinner and family brunch I was invited to, even when I had work or just wanted to rest. I've let Zach tell me they'll come around for years while nothing changes. Now that I'm finally drawing a line, I'm the problem? I'm not asking for him to disown them. I'm asking for him to see that they treat me like garbage and for him to stop making excuses. If we're going to build a life together, I need to know I won't be thrown under the bus to keep the peace at Sunday dinner. Zach thinks I'm overreacting. He sees his family as loud, sure, but harmless. He doesn't understand the microaggressions, the underhanded comments, or how isolating it feels to be in a room full of people who don't see you as good enough. He says I'm being dramatic and that every family has issues. He thinks I should be grateful he's close with them, that it means he'll be a good husband and father. He feels blindsided and rejected because he thought the proposal would be a joyful moment and instead got met with a list of conditions. It's been a week since he left. We've texted a few times, but nothing deep. Yesterday, he sent me a long message, said he talked to his mum, told her that some of her comments about me had been cruel and out of line. She, of course, cried and said she was only joking and that I take everything so personally. But he said for the first time, he did tell her she needs to stop, that if she wants to be part of his future, she has to respect the person in it with him. I cried reading that. Then he wrote, I don't want to choose between you and them, but I finally realized that pretending it's not happening is choosing, and I've been choosing wrong. He hasn't proposed again. We haven't even seen each other yet. But we're going to couples counseling. He's coming home next week, and we're going to start fresh. Slow. I still don't know what our future looks like, but I feel heard, and for now, that's enough. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing his proposal because of his family and how he handles them? Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my girlfriend's sister's wedding after she told her family I'm just a phase? Hey Reddit, I don't even know where to begin. I never thought I'd be here typing this out, but I guess I need an outside perspective because right now I feel completely blindsided and lost. I, 28 Pam, have been with my girlfriend, Renee, 27F, for a little over 3 years. We met through a mutual friend at a housewarming party and we clicked right away. She's this fiercely independent, witty, career-driven woman who doesn't take crap from anyone but still manages to be the most emotionally generous person I've ever met. We started out slow, casual dates, late-night conversations, movie, nights that turned into deep philosophical debates. But within a few months, we were inseparable. At the time, I was getting my MBA and working part-time. She was already deep into her job as a data analyst for a tech company. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm now working full-time in finance, and we live together in a modest but cozy apartment in Chicago. We split rent, we grocery shop together, we've vacationed together, we've talked about marriage. I thought we were in this for the long haul. Renee comes from a very conservative family. Think Sunday dinners with awkward prayer circles. Her dad's obsession with traditional gender roles, and her mother who still insists women shouldn't chase careers too hard, or they'll forget how to raise a family. Renee has always described herself as the black sheep of the family. She's the only daughter who moved out before marriage, the only one who's lived with a boyfriend, and the only one who doesn't regularly go to church. Despite that, she's always tried to keep some semblance of peace with her family, particularly with her older sister Hannah, 31F, who is essentially the golden child. Hannah is getting married in August to a guy named Kyle, who, to be fair, seems nice, but is basically the embodiment of every cliché frat bro turned suburban dad stereotype. Now, here's where the problem starts. A few weeks ago, Renee and I were at a brunch hosted by Hannah to celebrate the countdown to the big day. It was mostly family and a few close friends. I'd met most of them in passing before, but this was the first time I'd spent an extended period around Renee's extended family. For the most part, it was polite but stiff. Her dad didn't speak to me much. Her mom asked Renee when she was planning on settling down and doing things right. I bit my tongue, but then I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. While I was grabbing a drink in the kitchen. I overheard Hannah talking to their cousin. She was showing her the seating chart, and I heard her say, "Oh, Evan, he's just Renee's current thing. She brings guys around when she wants to get a reaction from Dad. This one's just lasted longer." The cousin laughed. Hannah continued, "She'll come to her senses eventually. You know how Renee is. Dramatic. Always needs a cause." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Renee had invited me. She said she wanted me there. But here I was, being talked about like I was a temporary rebellion, a placeholder. I didn't confront her right away. I played it cool for the rest of the event, but I was distant. She noticed. When we got home, I told her what I'd heard. She looked mortified at first, then angry, but not at her sister. At me. She said, "You weren't supposed to be eavesdropping. You know how Hannah is. She doesn't mean half the stuff she says." I told her I wasn't eavesdropping. I was literally getting a drink, that I was hurt, that after 3 years of loving her, supporting her, building a life with her, I didn't deserve to be referred to like a fashion accessory she'd grow out of. She apologized, said she was sorry I heard it, and that she'd talked to Hannah, that she didn't agree with her. But then she added, "You know how my family is. I have to pick my battles." I asked if she had ever defended me to them. She said she didn't need to, that they knew she cared about me, and that should be enough. I disagreed. I told her that silence can look like agreement, that I felt like she was ashamed of me, of us. We didn't talk much for a few days. Then, last week, her official wedding invite for Hannah's ceremony came. Only Renee was invited. No +1, no and guest, nothing. Renee said she'd bring it up, but days passed and nothing changed. That's when I told her I wouldn't be attending. Not just because I wasn't invited, but because I refused to play the part of the tolerated secret anymore. If her family truly thought I was just a phase, and she wasn't willing to correct that publicly, then I wouldn't go where I wasn't wanted. She flipped, said I was making it about me, that this was her sister's big day, that I was being petty and insecure and making her choose between me and her family. I told her she's the one who's been choosing. Every time she stays quiet while they disrespect me, every time she lets her mum make comments about our living in sin, every time she lets Hannah diminish our relationship to her friends, she chooses not to stand up, and that hurts more than anything they could ever say. She left that night to stay with a friend, said she needed space to think. It's been 4 days, no calls, just a text saying, "I'm still processing." Still, main character's name, Evan. Age of the main character, 28. Partner's name, Renee. Age of the partner, 27. Lived in, deeply connected relationship of over 3 years. Evan and Renee share a home and a life together. They've discussed long-term plans. However, Renee's conservative family has never fully acknowledged their relationship, and she's historically avoided confrontation with them. At a family event, Evan overhears Renee's sister describing him as just a phase, and implying Renee is only dating him to rebel. When Evan tells Renee, she defends her sister instead of validating his feelings. Things boil over when Renee receives a wedding invite that excludes Evan. Evan feels invalidated and disrespected. He's committed years to this relationship, only to be made to feel like a secret or temporary placeholder. Renee's failure to defend him publicly, combined with her expectation that he quietly accept this treatment, makes him question how much she truly values the relationship. Renee believes family is complicated and that not every battle is worth fighting. She wants to avoid conflict, especially during her sister's wedding. She insists that she loves Evan and that what her family thinks doesn't matter. But she struggles to set boundaries or demand respect from them, particularly when it involves confrontation. After nearly a week of space, Renee came home. We sat on the balcony with tea and watched the skyline for a while before she said anything. She told me she'd talked to her sister, that Hannah, predictably, brushed it off as joking and refused to apologize. But Renee told her that if I wasn't welcome at the wedding, she wouldn't be going either. Then she looked at me and said, "You were right. I've been choosing silence, and it's made you feel like I'm not proud of you, of us. I am. I just didn't want to burn bridges, but I didn't realize those bridges were already burning you." I cried. She cried. It was the most honest conversation we've had in months. She sent her regrets to Hannah yesterday. We're looking into couples counseling now. Not because we're falling apart, but because we want to learn how to show up for each other better. I still don't know if Hannah and I will ever get along, but at least now I know that Renee will stand beside me, even when it's uncomfortable. So, Reddit. Was I the a-hole for refusing to attend her sister's wedding and calling out how her family treats me? TLDR. My girlfriend of 3 years invited me to her sister's wedding. Her family has always been cold to me. I overheard her sister calling me just a phase, and when I told my girlfriend, she defended her sister. I later found out I wasn't even invited to the wedding. I refused to go. She said I was being petty. Aita. Am I the a-hole for falling in love with my fiancé's childhood best friend and breaking off the wedding a week before the ceremony? Hi Reddit. I, 32M, am dealing with a situation that has blown up every part of my life, and I honestly don't know if I'm the villain or just a guy who got tangled in the worst timing imaginable. I'm posting from a throwaway because some of the people involved use Reddit. This is going to be long, but it has to be to make any sense. Main character: Ryan, me. Love interest: Lila, 30F, my fiancé's childhood best friend. Ex-fiancé: Madison, 31F, my partner of 5 years supporting characters. Adam, 36M, my older brother, who's like my moral compass. Elena, 29F, Madison's younger sister, a few close friends in our wedding party. Setting: San Diego, California, where I've lived all my life. Madison and I met at a mutual friend's Halloween party in 2018. She came as a flapper girl. I was in a lazy lumberjack costume. I spilled red wine on her dress within 5 minutes, and somehow she laughed instead of throwing the glass at me. We hit it off instantly. Witty banter, similar music taste, both into board games and weekend hikes. Our relationship was pretty smooth from the start. Madison is smart, organized, ambitious, and fiercely loyal. She grounds me. I was kind of coasting before I met her, hopping from job to job, aimless about my goals. She believed in me before I did, pushed me to take promotions, helped me reconnect with my estranged dad. I owe her more than I can ever repay. We moved in together after a year, and I proposed 2 years later on a beach in Big Sur. She cried. I cried. It was perfect. The wedding planning started almost immediately. She was a natural at it, obsessively color-coded spreadsheets and all. We booked a winery venue just outside Temecula, hired a great photographer, got the food tasting, locked in. Everything was falling into place. Enter Lila. Lila and Madison have been best friends since 3rd grade. They were the classic opposites attract duo. Madison was the straight A student council type, and Lila was the wild, artsy free spirit who'd dye her hair a new color every month and write angsty poetry in high school. Madison always said Lila was her first soulmate, and I never questioned it. Lila had moved to New York for grad school, then stayed there for work, so I'd only met her a handful of times over the years. She was always nice, but distant. We'd have pleasant small talk at gatherings, and that was about it. That changed when she flew in 3 months before the wedding and decided to stay through the ceremony. She'd taken a sabbatical from work after a bad breakup and wanted to help Madison prep and reconnect. I didn't think anything of it. She stayed in our guest room, got along with everyone, and took on some of the wedding errands to lighten Madison's load. But something shifted between Lila and me during that time. It wasn't sudden, not a lightning bolt or a movie moment. It was quiet, gradual. It started with late-night chats over wine after Madison went to bed. Lila and I would sit in the backyard, talking about everything: books, regrets, music, childhood. She told me about how she once lived in Paris for a year, and barely spoke French, but fell in love with a woman who played violin on the metro. I told her about my failed dreams of being a filmmaker before I ended up in insurance. She listened like no one else ever had. Then one night, it happened. She kissed me. We were sitting close, too close. Her knee brushed mine. She said something about how hard it was to be back here after so long, how much she missed feeling understood. And then she kissed me. It only lasted a second. I pulled away instantly. We both apologized, freaked out, and agreed to pretend it never happened. I told her I loved Madison. She nodded. I meant it. I still mean it. But that kiss sparked something I couldn't ignore. It stirred up this storm of confusion and longing and fear I hadn't felt in years. From then on, I started noticing things. The way Lila looked at me when I laughed. How her presence made me feel lighter. Like I could be a different version of myself. More vulnerable, more alive. And I started realizing that the person Madison fell in love with wasn't the man I actually was anymore. I had changed. Or maybe I had been pretending. All along, I tried to compartmentalize. I convinced myself it was cold feet, wedding stress. But every time I saw Lila, the feeling deepened. And she was distant now, avoiding eye contact, being overly polite. It made me ache. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, we were alone in the kitchen. Madison was out getting her final dress fitting. Lila walked in, grabbed a glass of water, and said, "After the wedding, I'm leaving. For good. I won't come back here again. It's too hard." I asked her what she meant. She just looked at me and said, "I love her, but I can't watch you marry her." And then she walked out. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I left the apartment, drove 2 hours to the coast, sat on the beach, and cried like a kid. I realized I couldn't marry Madison. Not like this, not with part of my heart trapped in the wrong place. It had nothing to do with Lila being more beautiful or more exciting. It wasn't about fantasy. It was about honesty. I had crossed a line emotionally, and even though I hadn't physically cheated, my heart had already betrayed the woman I promised to love forever. I told Madison the truth a week before the wedding. Everything. I expected her to scream, throw something, maybe hit me. Instead, she stared at me for what felt like an eternity, then whispered, "You fell in love with Lila, didn't you?" I said yes. She didn't cry. She just left the room and didn't come back for hours. The fallout was massive. Madison cancelled the wedding and blocked me on everything. Her family hates me. Her sister Elena sent me a voice message calling me a coward and a homewrecker. Friends are split. Some understand. Others are furious I waited so long to speak up. My brother Adam told me he admired that I told the truth, but said I handled it too late to be noble. And Lila, she left town the next morning. Didn't say goodbye. I haven't heard from her since. It's been 3 weeks. I'm living with Adam now, trying to put myself back together. I still don't know what I expect from Lila, or if I deserve anything from her. Maybe she was just the match that lit the fuse. Maybe I ruined 2 women's lives because I couldn't keep my feelings in check. But I also know this. If I had gone through with the wedding, if I'd said, "I do," while secretly in love with someone else, I would have destroyed Madison slowly, over time, instead of honestly, all at once. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for breaking off my wedding because I fell in love with my fiancé's best friend, even though we never physically cheated? TLDR. Was engaged to Madison, got to know her childhood best friend Lila better during wedding prep. Kissed once, never acted on it again, but fell for her emotionally. Told Madison a week before the wedding. She cancelled everything. Everyone hates me now. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for calling off our engagement after my fiancé tested me by sending her friend to flirt with me? Hi Reddit. This is the messiest thing I've ever been involved in, and I've been losing sleep over it for weeks. I, 31M, was engaged to my now ex-fiancé, Harper, 29F, until about a month ago. What should have been the happiest time of our lives turned into a total emotional breakdown after something she did to test me. I know how that sounds, and I need an honest take. So here's the whole story. Buckle up. Main character's name: Evan. Age of main character: 31. Partner's name: Harper. Age of partner: 29. Brief description of the relationship. Harper and I met through mutual friends almost 4 years ago. She's smart, funny, and fiercely driven. We clicked right away. I was fresh out of a bad breakup, and she was still recovering from a betrayal by her college boyfriend. So we bonded over past wounds. We took it slow, started as friends, then dating seriously, then moved in together after a year and a half. We got engaged last summer at a cabin in the Smokies after a long hike. She cried. I cried. It felt like everything was right. Our relationship had been strong, or at least I thought it was. The incident that leads to the conflict. 2 months ago, Harper's best friend Brielle, 28F, started acting weird around me. I've known Brielle for as long as I've known Harper. She was a bit standoffish at first, but warmed up over the years. She's blunt, sarcastic, and fiercely loyal to Harper. The three of us have hung out plenty. Game nights, dinners, even vacations together. So when Harper left town for a weekend to help her sister move, and Brielle randomly texted me on Friday night asking if I wanted to grab a drink since she was bored and nearby, I didn't think much of it. I told her sure. 1 drink. She suggested this upscale bar downtown, and I met her there. From the moment I walked in, something felt off. She was dressed differently. Like not grab a drink with a friend, different. More like date, night, different. Short black dress, heels, full makeup, red lipstick, which I've never seen her wear. Still, I brushed it off. We sat at the bar, and things were fine at first, casual chat. But then she started complimenting me. A lot. Saying, I clean up well, how she always thought I had sad artist eyes. What? Then she asked if Harper and I were still having sex regularly, and whether I ever thought about what life would be like with someone less safe. At that point, I laughed, thinking she was drunk or joking. Then she leaned in and said, I'll never forget this. If you ever want to know what it feels like to be wanted without all the strings, you've got my number. I was stunned. I paid the tab, told her that was incredibly inappropriate, and walked out. I didn't even look back. I was furious, but mostly confused. Why would Brielle, of all people, who's always been protective of Harper, pull something like this? My first thought was that she was testing me for Harper, but that seemed too manipulative, even for her. I kept replaying it in my head all weekend. When Harper got back on Sunday, I sat her down and told her everything, and she just stared at me for a while. Then she sighed and said, Okay, I was going to tell you after. My heart dropped. She admitted it. She had asked Brielle to flirt with me, to test how I'd react. She said she got the idea after a podcast episode about loyalty tests in relationships. The host apparently encouraged couples to verify emotional boundaries before marriage. Harper said that after how fast we'd moved through engagement, planning, she needed to know for sure I wouldn't stray. I was floored. I asked her why she couldn't just trust me. We've never had infidelity issues. I've never lied to her. I never even flirted with anyone else since we got together. She said it wasn't about me. It was about her fears, that she needed proof before committing her whole life to someone. I told her that if she had doubts, the way to handle them was through honest conversations. Therapy, vulnerability, not emotional manipulation through her best friend. And here's the kicker. She didn't even think it was that bad. She said, It's not like I told her to sleep with you. It was just flirting. I couldn't even look at her after that. I told her I needed space. I went to stay at my brother's for a few days. While there, I thought about everything. Not just the test, but what it said about her mindset. If she needed me to fail to feel secure, What kind of foundation was that for a marriage? I called off the engagement. She was devastated, begged me to reconsider, said it was a one-time lapse in judgment, that she got scared and made a mistake. Her parents called me and told me I was overreacting, that all women have their ways of making sure a man is loyal. Brielle even texted me, apologizing, saying she hated doing it, but Harper insisted, and she felt trapped. Now Harper's accusing me of throwing away 4 years over a test. My friends are split. Some say what she did was manipulative and gross. Others say it was stupid, but not worth cancelling a wedding over. The main character's perspective on the situation: I feel like trust is binary. Either you have it or you don't. If Harper truly felt like I might cheat on her, then we had a bigger problem. To involve someone else in a fake scenario just to catch me feels juvenile and manipulative. What happens if we're married and she gets suspicious again? Another test? A fake text message? A decoy woman in a new city? I get that she has trauma from her past, but I'm not her ex. I've never made her feel unsafe or unimportant. I've been patient, loyal, communicative, and yet she still needed to test me. It made me feel humiliated, like our love was a social experiment, like I was a rat in a maze. The partner's perspective on the situation, from what I understand: Harper insists it wasn't about me. It was about her own insecurities. She said she didn't expect Brielle to go that far. She thought it would be a harmless way to reassure herself. She admitted it was dumb and apologized sincerely. She said she panicked when things got serious and she needed to feel like she had control. She believes that calling off the engagement is an overreaction, that what she did was wrong, but forgivable. She keeps saying, "You passed the test. Isn't that what matters? But I don't want to have to pass tests in a relationship, outcome, or resolution of the conflict." I've stayed broken up with her. We had one final conversation in person where she cried and told me she still wants to marry me. She's willing to go to counseling, to rebuild trust, to do anything, and I believe she regrets it. I really do. But I don't know if I can unfeel the betrayal. I don't know if I can shake the idea that the woman I was going to spend my life with thought it was okay to emotionally entrap me. It makes me question everything. Was I being observed this whole time? Was she always looking for me to fail? I miss her. God, I miss her. But I also miss respect. And I think maybe this is the kind of mistake that love alone can't fix. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for calling off my engagement because my fiancée tested me by sending her friend to flirt with me? Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I don't want to raise her child with another man's name? Hi Reddit, throwaway account, because some friends follow my main I, 33M, have been with my girlfriend, Layla, 31F, for nearly 5 years. She's smart, funny, creative, and genuinely one of the most emotionally intelligent people I've ever met. We met at a gallery opening through a mutual friend. I'm a software developer, she's an art therapist, and our worlds somehow collided and clicked. She had this quiet depth about her, like she'd lived 10 lives. I fell hard. Still am. When we first started dating, she told me she was divorced and had a son, Milo, now 6. His biological father, Eric, was her high school sweetheart, and they married young, 21 and 23. But Eric had a problem with alcohol and walked out when Milo was just over a year old. She filed for divorce, and he hasn't been in Milo's life since. No contact, no support. When I met Milo, he was 2, tiny, shy, and always clutching a stuffed rabbit. We got close slowly. I didn't want to overstep, and Layla was protective, understandably. But over the years, Milo started calling me Evan Daddy. My name is Evan. Then just Daddy. I never asked him to. I never pushed for it. It just happened. Fast forward to now. We live together. We've talked about marriage. I've taken Milo to doctor's appointments, taught him how to ride a bike, kissed him goodnight more nights than I can count. He is, in every way that matters, my son. Except legally. And here's the kicker. His last name is still Eric's. Welling. I've never made an issue of it. I figured if and when Layla and I got married, we'd talk about it. But last month, I finally proposed. She said yes. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, until 2 weeks ago. We started going over paperwork, insurance, wills, name changes, etc. And I asked, carefully, if we could consider changing Milo's last name from Welling to mine. Not even necessarily to Evan right away, maybe hyphenated, or even something neutral we agreed on. I don't feel great raising a child who carries the name of a man who abandoned him. Layla went silent. After a long pause, she told me she wasn't comfortable changing Milo's last name. She said it was part of his identity, and that it's not my place to erase his father, even if Eric isn't around. I reminded her that I've been the one raising him, that Eric has never even sent a birthday card, and that this wasn't about erasure. It was about unity, about giving Milo the name of the family he's actually growing up with. She accused me of being insecure, of wanting to claim ownership of something that isn't mine. I said that was unfair, that I've never wanted to replace Eric, but I am Milo's father in every way that matters. And yes, I want that reflected in the name of the son I tuck in every night. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. The next morning, she left early for work and dropped Milo at daycare before I woke up. That night, she told me she needed time to think and asked me to sleep at my brother's for a few days. That was 10 days ago. We've texted a bit, but she's still thinking. Her sister called me and said I was out of line, that it's Layla's decision, not mine, and I should be grateful just to be accepted into their little family. My mum, however, thinks Layla's being unreasonable, and that I'm well within my rights to want a deeper connection to the boy I've helped raise. Main character's name, Evan. Age of the main character, 33. Partner's name, Layla. Age of the partner, 31. Brief description of the relationship. Deep, loving 5-year relationship. Evan has been a de facto father to Layla's son Milo since he was 2. They recently got engaged and started planning a shared future. The incident that leads to the conflict. When reviewing documents and discussing family logistics post-engagement, Evan suggested changing Milo's last name from Layla's ex-husband's name to reflect the family he's growing up in, ideally Evan's name or a hyphenated version. Layla was upset, feeling that Evan was trying to erase her son's paternal lineage. The main character's perspective on the situation. From my point of view, this is about love and commitment, not ego. I've done the work of a father for 4 years. I've never tried to erase Eric or pretend he didn't exist. I've respected that he's part of Milo's origin story, even if he bailed. But names matter, especially to kids. I remember being a kid and how proud I was to write my family name on things. Right now, we're on the brink of becoming a legal family. And I don't want Milo to be the only one in the household with a different last name, one that symbolizes abandonment instead of love. I'm not trying to possess anyone. I'm trying to honor the family we've built. The partner's perspective on the situation as she shared it. Layla says she's grateful for everything I've done, that I've been a wonderful father figure and that Milo loves me. That's not in question. But she believes names carry weight beyond parenting. She says changing Milo's name would be like pretending Eric never existed, that even if Eric abandoned him, Milo might someday want to know where he came from. She also admitted that it feels too soon, that Milo is only 6 and he should have a say when he's older, that she's worried changing his name now might cause confusion or identity issues. I tried to offer compromises, hyphenation, waiting until Milo's 10, but she shut them all down. She said the fact that I brought it up now, right after getting engaged, makes her feel like there are conditions to my love for her and Milo. I told her that's not true. I would love them no matter what, but I can't lie. This has affected how I see our future. Outcome or resolution of the conflict. We had a major heart-to-heart 3 nights ago. Layla invited me over after putting Milo to bed. We sat on the couch, both exhausted. She told me she'd talked to her therapist and to her mom, and that she realized maybe her resistance wasn't just about Milo. It was about fear. She admitted that she felt guilty about how Eric left, and that part of her still wonders if Milo might grow up angry or confused about why his dad didn't want him. She said, changing his name feels like giving up on that possibility, that Eric might come back one day and do right by him. She started crying. I did too. I told her I understood, that this wasn't about replacing Eric. It was about making sure Milo knows he belongs, that he doesn't have to wait around for a dad who's never coming back to feel worthy of having a father. In the end, we didn't decide right then, but we agreed to go to family therapy, to talk through it, with a neutral party, and eventually with Milo, when the time feels right. Layla said she's open to discussing a hyphenated name once Milo turns 7, and that she's not completely against a change anymore. She also told me she still wants to marry me, that this fight scared her because she realized how deeply I'd bonded with Milo, and how afraid she was of losing both of us. I moved back in yesterday. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I want to change her son's last name, even though I'm not his biological dad? Am I the a-hole for telling my childhood friend I've been in love with her, the night before her wedding? I already know this sounds bad. Believe me, I've been living with the guilt and confusion every hour since it happened. I, 30M, have been in love with my best friend Lila, 29F, for half my life. She's getting married to a great guy. I should be happy for her. Instead, I might have ruined everything the night before the biggest day of her life. I don't know what came over me, but I told her the truth, and now I'm spiraling. Lila and I met when we were 11. Her family moved in next door, and we became fast friends, the kind of inseparable kids who spent summers building forts in the woods, watching movies on beanbags, and riding bikes until our legs gave out. As we got older, we stayed close. High school dances, college stress, breakups, bad dates. We talked about everything. Except the one thing I could never say, that I've been hopelessly in love with her since I was 16. I didn't say anything, because I thought it would ruin what we had. She leaned on me like a brother. We cuddled during movies, fell asleep on the couch together, danced in her kitchen while baking cookies. I took it all like a starving man accepting crumbs, just happy to be close to her. I dated other people. She did too. But no one ever measured up to her in my eyes. When she met Evan, 32, I saw the shift in her. It was real, serious, the kind of relationship that built roots fast. He's a good guy, smart, respectful, stable. The kind of man you'd trust with your future. I didn't hate him. I couldn't. But every time I saw them together, a part of me withered. They dated for 2 years before getting engaged. I was there the night he proposed, hiding in the bushes with a camera to capture the moment, like some tragic background character in a movie about someone else's happy ending. When she turned around with tears in her eyes and shouted, "I'm engaged!" I hugged her and told her I was thrilled. I wasn't. Fast forward to last weekend. It was the night before the wedding, a small, intimate gathering at a lake house. The whole wedding party was there. Everyone was drinking, dancing, celebrating. At around midnight, people started turning in. I was helping clean up empty glasses when Lila pulled me outside to sit by the dock. We hadn't really had a moment alone all day. She looked at me, her eyes sparkling from a mix of wine and joy, and said, "I always thought if I ever got married, you'd be the one giving the toast, and now here we are." I laughed, said something dumb like, "Well, don't expect a sappy speech tomorrow." She tilted her head, that familiar smile on her face, and said, "You've always been there, for me, since we were kids. I don't know what I'd do without you." And then she hugged me. It was a normal hug, something we've done thousands of times. But something about that night, the stars above us, the quiet hum of the water, the knowledge that tomorrow she'd belong to someone else forever, it broke something in me. When she pulled back, I looked at her, really looked at her, and I said, "Lila, I have to tell you something." She smiled, a little confused. "What?" I said. "I love you. I've been in love with you for years. I never said anything because I didn't want to lose you, but I can't let you get married tomorrow without knowing." The silence that followed felt like hours. Her face dropped. She blinked like she didn't understand what I was saying. She whispered, "Why are you telling me this now?" And I had no answer. I tried to say, "I'm sorry, but I could see her shutting down. She stood up, wrapped her arms around herself and said, "You should have told me years ago, not now. Not the night before I marry someone I love." Then she walked away. I sat there on the dock until the sky started to lighten. The next morning, everything was mechanical. The wedding day was a blur. I wasn't in the bridal party. Evan's brother was his best man. But I was still invited, still seated in the front as one of her oldest friends. I watched her walk down the aisle, radiant in her dress, and I felt like my chest was splitting, open. She didn't look at me once during the ceremony. They said their vows. They kissed. People cheered, and I clapped, smiled, and swallowed every emotion like poison. That was 5 days ago. I haven't heard from her since. I sent her a message saying I was sorry, that I shouldn't have dropped that on her like a bomb right before her wedding. I told her I didn't expect anything to change, that I just didn't want to carry it forever without her knowing. She hasn't replied. Some of my friends say I did the right thing, that honesty matters, and that she deserved to know how I really felt before making a lifelong decision. Others say I'm a selfish jerk who couldn't stand not being the center of her world anymore and tried to sabotage her happiness at the 11th hour. I didn't mean to ruin anything. I just cracked. I couldn't let her walk into forever without hearing the truth from me once, even if she never spoke to me again. But now I'm sitting in my apartment alone, wondering if I was just a coward all these years, and then a selfish bastard in the end. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend I love her the night before her wedding, even though I knew she was going to marry someone else? Edit. TLDR. My best friend of 19 years got married this week. I've been in love with her most of that time, but never told her. The night before her wedding, I cracked and confessed. She walked away without saying much, and we haven't talked since. The wedding still happened. I feel like I destroyed everything. Was I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for falling in love with my best friend's fiancé and not telling her before the wedding? This might be the most shameful thing I've ever written. And even now, I don't know if I deserve sympathy, understanding, or pure hatred. I, 29F, fell in love with my best friend's 30F fiancé. And I'm trying to figure out if keeping my mouth shut until after the wedding makes me the bad guy, or if saying something earlier would have been even worse. Let's go back a few years. I met my best friend Tara in college. She was this storm of chaotic joy, the kind of person who lit up every room she entered. She once danced in the rain at 2 a.m. just because her favorite song came on. She adopted stray cats, made friends with strangers on buses, and cried over commercials. We were inseparable from day one. She was my ride or die, my platonic soulmate. We got matching tattoos our senior year, tiny anchors behind our ears because we promised to be each other's anchor when life tried to drown us. We moved to the city together after college, shared a shoebox apartment, stayed up late watching horror movies, made pasta at midnight, got drunk on cheap wine and talked about our dream weddings. It was always understood between us. We'd be each other's maid of honor, no matter what. Then she met Noah, 32M. It was instant between them. He was tall, bookish, soft-spoken, and completely smitten with her from the first date. I liked him. We all did. He was the kind of guy who remembered your coffee order and genuinely asked about your day. Thoughtful, generous, steady. Tara, who was always flitting from one passion to the next, found this beautiful calm in him. I didn't notice it right away, how I looked forward to seeing him, how I'd perk up when he laughed at one of my jokes, how I caught myself replaying our group conversations, focusing more on his voice than hers. It was subtle, creeping. I told myself I was just happy she'd found a good guy. But over time, I started to crave the moments when it was just me and him, when Tara was out of the room and we'd start talking about books or films or weird trivia. He once stayed up late with me to help fix my laptop when it crashed the night before a work presentation. We sat on the floor, our knees touching, and something electric passed between us. I told myself I imagined it. And then one night, about a year ago, we ended up alone at their apartment. Tara was away visiting her sister. I had swung by to drop off something, and he invited me to stay for dinner. We made pasta, had some wine, listened to records. It was innocent, friendly, comfortable, until it wasn't. We were sitting on the couch. He looked at me and said, "You and I, we always get each other in a way that feels unfair." My heart stopped. I didn't know how to respond. I tried to laugh it off, but he didn't. He said, "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we met first." I panicked. I told him to stop, that Tara was everything, that this couldn't happen. He looked ashamed, nodded, apologized. Nothing physical happened. But emotionally, everything changed. From that day on, I couldn't breathe around him. I tried to pull back. I stopped staying late when visiting them. I avoided eye contact, but Tara, being Tara, noticed. She thought I was going through something personal. She kept checking in, hugging me randomly, telling me she missed me. And every time she did, I wanted to bury myself in a hole. 6 months ago, they got engaged. She called me crying happy tears. I faked mine. She asked me to be her maid of honor. I said yes. I kept waiting for the feelings to fade, for this ridiculous, shameful crush to die. But it didn't. It only grew worse the closer the wedding got. Noah and I never spoke of that night again. But there were looks, lingering glances, moments when his hand would brush mine for a second too long. He never crossed a line again. Neither did I. But the air between us was thick with unspoken words. A month before the wedding, we had the bachelorette weekend. Tara got drunk and ended up crying on my shoulder, saying, "I'm so lucky. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve him. He's so good, and I'm me." I told her she was the most deserving person I'd ever met. The next night, I almost told her everything. I had too much wine. I sat on the edge of her hotel bed while she slept, her wedding dress hanging in the corner, and I whispered into the dark, "I love him." She stirred. I froze. She didn't wake up. I didn't say it again. The wedding came and went like a dream. I stood beside her, handed her the bouquet, adjusted her veil. I watched her promise forever to the man I loved. I watched him avoid looking at me during the vows. I smiled through my speech. I toasted to their future. 3 days later, I booked a one-way ticket out of the country. I told Tara it was a spontaneous job opportunity abroad, a soul-searching adventure. She cried, begged me not to go, promised we'd stay close. I smiled and lied again. It's been 8 months. I'm writing this from a tiny studio apartment in Portugal. I wake up every day with a weight in my chest. I haven't spoken to Noah. I haven't called Tara in 3 weeks. She keeps messaging me, asking why I'm being so distant. I don't know what to say anymore. Here's the thing. I never told her. I never ruined her day. I never acted on my feelings. I just loved him silently. Then I left. But the guilt is consuming me, because I wanted him to choose me, because I almost hoped the wedding would fall apart, because even now, part of me checks his Instagram and wonders what could have been. I don't know if I did the right thing by staying quiet, or if honesty, even cruel honesty, would have been better. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for falling in love with my best friend's fiancé and never telling her? Edit. TLDR. I fell in love with my best friend's fiancé. He may have had feelings for me too. We never acted on them, but there was emotional tension. I didn't tell her before the wedding. I stood beside her as maid of honor, then disappeared from her life. Am I the a-hole for staying silent? Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my boyfriend's wedding to someone else, even though we're still in love? Throw away account because, well, this whole thing is a mess, and I don't want this attached to my main. I, 28F, am caught in what I can only describe as a tragic, confusing, borderline cinematic love story, except I'm not sure if I'm the villain or just incredibly stupid. I've known Leo, 31M, for almost a decade. We met in college. He was in my philosophy class, always sitting 2 rows behind me with this thoughtful, infuriating half smile, like he knew something the rest of us didn't. We didn't talk for a while, but one day after class, we ended up in this deep conversation about Camus and free will, and it spiraled into us spending the entire night walking around campus, talking about everything and nothing. That was the beginning. We dated for 4 years. Those years were the most passionate, chaotic, beautiful messes of my life. He was my best friend, my soulmate, my muse. He wrote songs about me. I wrote short stories about him. We were one of those disgustingly inseparable couples people either loved or hated. But the thing about soulmates is, sometimes they don't arrive at the right time. He got a job offer across the country after graduation. I had to stay back for my family. My dad was sick, my younger brother needed support, and I just couldn't leave. We tried long distance, for a while. We made it work. Until we didn't. He met someone else, Claire, through work. She was everything I wasn't. Stable, predictable, sweet in the kind of way I could never pull off. He told me about her before anything happened. We were still talking almost every night back then, still emotionally entangled even if we were technically on a break. When he told me they kissed, I think my heart physically cracked. We stopped talking for a while. I told myself to move on. I tried. I dated other people, forced myself to pretend I was fine, threw myself into work, but Leo was always there, in the corners of my mind, in old voice memos, in songs I couldn't delete. Last year, he messaged me out of nowhere. He said he missed me, that Claire was amazing, but he never stopped thinking about me, that he didn't know what the right thing to do was, but he needed closure, or maybe something more. I agreed to meet him. I shouldn't have. 1 meeting turned into 5, into 10, into weekends together under the excuse of catching up. Nothing physical happened, at first, but the emotional intensity was undeniable. He told me he loved me, that he always had, that he wasn't sure if marrying Claire was right anymore. I told him he needed to figure out what he wanted, that I wasn't going to be the other woman, that I couldn't live with being a maybe. He cried, I cried, we kissed, we crossed a line. The guilt was immediate. I told him we couldn't keep doing this unless he was honest with Claire. He promised he would tell her. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. He kept saying the timing was bad, that her mother was sick, that the wedding plans were already in motion and she'd be devastated, that he didn't want to hurt her, but he couldn't lose me either. Then last month, I got the invitation in the mail to their wedding. It wasn't just addressed to me, it was personally signed, in Claire's handwriting, with a note. I've heard so much about you. I know you meant a lot to Leo in college. We'd love to have you there. I stared at that card for an hour. I felt sick. I called Leo. I asked him what the hell he was thinking. He sounded exhausted, said he was sorry, that he never found the right moment, that he tried to tell her, but every time he looked at her, he couldn't bring himself to do it, that he still loved me, but he couldn't destroy someone else's life just to follow his heart, that he didn't think I'd actually come. I told him I wasn't going. He got quiet. Then he said, "Please do. I need you there, even if it's just to see you one last time." I hung up on him. For days, I spiraled. My friends are split on this. Some say he's a selfish coward who used me as an emotional crutch, that he never really planned to leave her and just wanted the thrill of unfinished business. Others think he genuinely loves me, but life pulled us apart in the worst way, and now we're both trapped by timing and circumstance. I wrote him a letter. I never sent it. I wanted to scream at him, to beg him to call it off, to remind him what we had. But I didn't. Instead, I RSVP'd no. And now he's texting me every other day, not to ask me to change my mind, just updates that he misses me, that he wished things were different, that he dreams about us living together in a little beach house someday, painting and writing and growing old. I told him to stop, that he made his choice, that I wasn't going to be the ghost in the pew while he says I do to someone else, that I couldn't smile at their wedding photos knowing I kissed the groom a month prior. But part of me still wonders, was I wrong? He's not married yet. He's not sleeping with me. He hasn't made me any promises, not directly. But we both know we're still in love. That if he asked me, I'd drop everything and run. And now Claire is messaging me too, bubbly and kind, talking about the seating chart and how excited she is to have Leo's old friends there. I can't look at her without guilt crawling up my spine. I haven't told her anything. I don't think I ever will. But sometimes I wonder if I should. Would it be crueler to let her marry a man whose heart is only 80% hers, or to blow up her world just days before her wedding? Anyway, I declined the invitation, but now everyone in our old college friend group is talking. Some of them found out I was invited and I'm not going. One even said I was being petty, that I should at least show up, wish him well, and put the past behind me. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to go to the wedding of the man I still love, even though he asked me to? Edit. TLDR. I dated Leo for 4 years. He met Claire during our break. They got engaged. He reconnected with me recently and told me he still loves me. We got emotionally involved, and yes, physically crossed a line once. He never told Claire. I refused to be the other woman. He still invited me to the wedding and asked me to come anyway. I said no. Now some mutuals are calling me cold petty. Am I the a-hole?